I didn't even want to look out the window any day. I didn't want anybody to come to the door. So I just figured if I ignored it, it wouldn't happen.
Life when a loved one is deployed. A military wife talks about her experience at home with an infant while her husband was in Iraq. Man on fire. The harrowing injuries one man sustained in combat. And why Prince Harry is urging folks to pay attention to the injuries unseen.
I want this to go nationwide because all our veterans who have served deserve the right to have this program.
Red Sox legend Tim Wakefield meets with a group of local veterans who are working hard to regain and maintain their warrior health and fitness.
I've lost more soldiers to suicide than I have in combat, and I don't want to lose another one. When you meet the parents of somebody who's been lost when they come home, there is no greater tragedy. They survived combat. They should be able to survive America.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Randy Price, and you're watching the 3rd annual Home Base Veterans Day special. Established in 2009, Home Base is a partnership of the Red Sox Foundation and Massachusetts General Hospital, focused on one thing: healing the invisible wounds. A staggering 1 in 3 come home with an invisible wound that can be just as debilitating as any physical injury, affecting relationships, employment, almost every aspect of their lives. Home Base works with these veterans and their family members, providing clinical care, wellness programs, education, and research at no cost to them. Home Base can only do this with support from viewers like you at home. With your help, these brave men and women can continue to heal. Families will remain intact. Families like the Valancourts.
Grew up in a city called Lewiston, Maine. Grew up in a relatively small Catholic family. It's just been a pretty sheltered life, actually, if you ask me. Always grew up playing Army in the woods. Outdoors kid, never inside. Dream was to be in the NHL, play for the Bruins, but that definitely didn't happen. So it's pretty much it. I just love being outside, baseball, street hockey, just all around American kid. Strong military heritage in my family from World War I, World War II. I always knew I was going to be in the military. Just never thought in a million years I'd get deployed. I was 17, my mom signed the paperwork for me, and I enlisted. I like helping the community out. I like the military mindset, the camaraderie. Not everybody can do it. That was the initiative for me to get through it, and I'm still proud of it to this day. I met Amy in August of '98 through mutual friends of ours.
He was a good boy. He was in the military, he went to church, he sang in the choir, he respected his family and his mother, and I knew that was somebody that I wanted to marry, because if he respected his mom like that, then he'd respect me like that. When you marry someone who's in the military, it's always in the back of your mind that it could potentially happen. However, you always think it won't. It will be fine. Everything will be fine. I just expected that it would be like a fairy tale. We'd have kids and we'd get married and we would have careers and it would be fun and simple, and I was really wrong.
Trent was born in August of 2001. So when September 11th happened, he was literally a month old to the day. August 11th, he was born.
I remember having a baby and thinking, we're good, he's gonna be out soon. And no, that all changed September 11th with a 1-month-old baby.
The call came in and it stung. We all knew it was coming, but it still doesn't take the sting away when you know you're gonna be leaving for a while.
My son was in the back seat waving to him, crying. And I was like, what am I gonna do for 18 months? How do you explain that to a 2-year-old?
When the C-130 ramp dropped and the cabin pressure was changed to natural air, the first thing I did notice was the air. Trash, dead animals on the side of the road, a lot of destruction, just pulling into the base camps, you could see just buildings reduced to rubble already, and I hadn't been there more than 10 minutes. So grow up in the state of Maine and you live in a city called Lewiston, and it's a pretty sheltered life here. And you see that and you breathe in that, and it's a shock. I was a combat heavy engineer. We'd only been there a short 5 weeks before our first KIA happened, so it didn't take long. So you kind of, your eyes open up, pretty quick when you have one of your guys, get killed.
We wrote to him every day. 7 letters every week, and a care package every Friday night till he came home.
One of the worst things that happened to our unit, not just our unit, but everybody on FOB Merez when I was there, was December 21st, 2004. The Chow Hall had a suicide bomber, and I believe it was 21 killed, 72 injured. 2 guys from my unit were killed. So many injured that day. It was just a bad day all around. I know people that were in there. A lot of people got hurt, and a lot of people are still hurting from that. So a lot of my close friends. I mean, there's just so many things that happened through the course of a year that you just say, I hate this place, and you kind of keep going, because eventually you just start to not care, is basically what you get to. You just, whatever. You think that you're just gonna come home and everything's gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine, I just want my life back, and this place didn't affect me. I didn't go through enough. They try to brief you on it when you come back. They don't realize that everybody in the audience, all the soldiers or whatever that are sitting there listening, they've tuned everybody out. They don't want to hear it. They just want to go home.
The first day he came home, he was outside on the lawn, and he was actually hugging me. And there was a couple down the street building a new house, and the back of the dump truck hit because they had emptied a load of dirt, and he literally dropped to the ground, and I was looking at him like, what are you doing? And he was very apologetic, and he's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay. But at the time, I thought he just got home. Like, it's gonna take a little while for him to adapt to the United States and being home in Maine and in the country. But it didn't go away.
It kind of crept up on me. It wasn't so much the social side of things right away. It was smaller things that just kind of came up and slowly came up, and then it was the avoidance, the withdrawal. Next thing you know, it's like I don't even want to be around family functions. I'm the weird guy sitting in the corner with my head down, staring at the floor, not engaged in conversation. The migraines were starting, and it was just so many things that were happening, and I couldn't explain it.
He was really distant and not taking part in anything that we were doing, which he always did. He was all about his family. And now he was pushing us all to the side. Going through all of it, it's challenging. And my mom looked at me one day and said, if he had cancer, would you leave? And I said, no. She said, don't give up on him now. And I never have.
I was going to counseling for years and years at the vet center. You kind of get to a point where you're counseled out, and that's where I was at. I started getting these signs, like I had a friend go through the home-based program, a good close friend that was injured in the Chow Hall bombing. And he told me about it. He's like, yeah, I'm going to Boston for 2 weeks, this program, and he goes, I'll let you know if it's worth anything. Well, he's talked to me about it like 3 times, and I'm like, come on, man, is it really that good? And about a month and a half later, here I am in Boston at home-based program, and I literally walked into like a family. Like, I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. The people actually cared.
They're just very understanding. They're very knowledgeable.
If you would have told me that I was going to be walking around downtown Boston by myself with no anxiety and actually a smile on my face, I would have told you you're out of your mind. But it's possible, and they give you the tools to do it. Still have bad days, but they're not bad months now, they're days.
I think the words that my son used is, wow, Dad's cool again. That to me is worth it.
If there's a veteran out there that's got a story like mine, or there's guys that have it even worse than I do, there's hope, guys. You gotta reach for it. You know, you're not alone, and there's genuine people out there who care, and it's not hard to reach for it.
Folks from Home Base are standing by. They're ready to answer your call at the phone bank. Home Base treats veterans, service members, and their families at no cost to them, but they can't do it alone. The nonprofit relies on donations from viewers like you. There's no better way to say thank you for your service. Call the phone bank now, 866-615-8387. You can text your donation in by texting veterans to 91999, upper lowercase, it doesn't matter. You can also contribute online by visiting homebase.org/give. Home Base treats patients in their Boston-based clinic, but for those in Maine, New Hampshire, and states all across the country, you don't have to make weekly trips to Boston in order to receive that care. Home Base created an intensive clinical program called ICP that provides close to a year's worth of therapy in just 2 weeks' time. Veterans can make one trip and receive that treatment they need. One of those veterans is Sarah Cox.
I started riding horses when I was 13, I believe. Horses, I think, are a lot like people. They all have their own personality, and what I think is amazing is horses can be so broken, and what's amazing is you can see how broken they are. They don't hide it. They're not ashamed of it. It's all right there to see.
Sarah is our veteran. Sarah was voted in high school most likely to be your best friend. She was into everything. She is an equestrian, so she was very active, very outgoing, friends at the house all the time.
Sarah is a Massachusetts native who now lives in Florida. She's part of a military family. Her stepfather is a Marine, and Sarah entered the Air Force after high school.
Some of the fears we had for Sarah going into the military, I knew it would change her, and I would hope that it would change her for the better.
Sarah enjoyed her first deployment, so much so that she signed up for a second and headed back to Iraq. As soon as she landed, however, her group was rushed onto a ramp where planes were coming in and out.
We were there to load an Army soldier into the back of a C-130 in a flag-draped casket and send him home. So that made it very real very quickly. So it was an eye-opener to what we had really gotten ourselves into.
Sarah doesn't talk much about her time deployed, but her parents say the Air Force police officer struggled visibly when she came home, with sleepless nights, mood swings, low energy, and self-induced isolation.
After that second deployment, something happened. She'll never talk about it, especially with me. Something happened.
Sharon suggested her daughter call Home Base and receive counseling after her wartime experience. Sarah brushed her off. Sharon, though, was determined to do something. So when she heard about the charity's biggest fundraiser, she signed up.
The run to Home Base, I did have an ulterior motive. By me running, I knew I was helping other veterans, but in the process, hoping to plant that seed into my daughter's mind and heart that this could also help her. Because as a parent, you know what your kids need. That's the hardest part. She was so strong and independent, outgoing, and now I have to sometimes go to the grocery store with her. She can't handle it.
I felt guilt, I felt shame, I was embarrassed. I felt like I was constantly judged by every single person. I felt like I had a sign on my head that was like telling people to judge me for what I had done. You can't live like that. It's no way to live. And the biggest step is picking up that phone and calling the number for the home base program.
It took years before Sarah was ready to confront her issues, but when she did, she enrolled in Homebase's intensive clinical program to heal the invisible wounds of war.
The first few days in Boston were what I call fire hosing. They basically fed so much information in such a short amount of time, but in a way that you understood it. All the clinicians, the social workers, the nurses, everybody, it was like a no judgment zone.
In the ICP, Sarah received nearly a year's worth of traditional and group therapy in 2 weeks' time. Clinical care, plus complementary alternative medicine such as art therapy.
They wanted us to create something on the outside that we thought we projected to everybody else. And then on the inside of the mask, how we actually felt inside.
It was intense, and as the days went by, she began to see some changes in herself. She talked about it on Facebook, sharing her experience in the ICP each night during the 2-week program.
I had people that I had no idea, people that I was on the same team with, that were reaching out saying that they were suffering too, and I had no idea. And I was with them and had no idea that stuff affected them the same way. So it almost helped me because I didn't feel so alone.
Sarah's stepdad, Mike, also felt he was part of something bigger. He came to the ICP as part of Sarah's support network. During the 2 weeks, family members received their own set of programming to help them understand what their veteran is facing.
We're all on the same team, trying to do the same, trying to get victory for our loved ones. That's what it's all about, victory. I didn't know what I could do to help her. I just stand back and watch. And the home base program really opened my eyes up as far as things that can happen to you. Like if you don't get shrapnel or a wound like that, there's other wounds that are more severe, believe it or not, like moral injury. And this opened my eyes to really, that helped me understand more what Sarah was really going through. And that in itself was priceless. I can't even tell you how much that helped me to understand more what was going on with her. And it was awesome.
Back at home, Sarah's quality of life continues to improve, using the various therapies and techniques she learned in the ICP to help her cope with daily life.
And I actually have a thumb drive that was made for us with deep breathing techniques, muscle relaxation. I can listen to these recordings, and what it does is it not only helps me to remember the tools, but it puts me back because I'm hearing their voices.
She brought home a lot of tools to help her when she gets really anxious or needs to go to the grocery store and I'm not available to go with her. She can manage to do that now.
And for Sarah's family, life is coming full circle. When Homebase's Run to Home Base fundraiser expanded to Florida in 2017, the entire family signed up.
What home base has done for her has made her outgoing again and a little more carefree.
It was the best thing that ever could have happened to her.
I think victory was ours for sure. Yep. Coming back after the program, we have victory. We do, and it's wonderful.
Right now, there are staffers standing by to answer your call. Any donation helps. No gift is too small. Thanks to your donation, mothers and fathers like Sarah's will be able to exhale because they know their loved one is able to get the clinical care they need. Call the phone bank now, 866-615-8387. You can text your donation in by texting VETERANS to 91999, upper lowercase, it doesn't matter. You can also contribute online by visiting homebase.org/give. As you learn from Sarah's story, in the ICP, meals and lodging, transportation and treatment, all taken care of, so that veterans who attend have just one thing to think about: healing. This model is tremendously successful with a 98% completion rate from the program. That is far better than the average 25% completion rate for most mental health programs.
I think people come to home base and immediately have an experience of, I'm understood, and these people really care about me.
Treatment works. That's the most powerful part of all of this. It's that we know that once we can get somebody in, that if they're willing to meet us halfway, we will do our part in making sure that they're able to reclaim their life.
Homebase's ICP is made possible through generous support by Wounded Warrior Project as part of the Warrior Care Network. The Warrior Care Network is a partnership between WWP, Homebase at Massachusetts General, and 3 other academic medical centers around the country.
The home base program is critical to the more than 130,000 warriors and family members that we serve, because the warriors that are in the greatest need we send to home base.
National partnerships are essential to reach the most veterans possible, and so are international partnerships. Earlier this year, Prince Harry, who served in Afghanistan himself, graced Fenway Park in a video message introducing 2 inspiring veterans, one from England, one from America, who were both in Boston to run the marathon and here at Fenway Park the same weekend to throw out the first pitch. Between them, Ivan Castro and Carl Hinnett had endured over 100 hours on operating tables and more than a year confined to a hospital bed. Their next challenge, issued by the royal family and in connection to home base, was to put their heads together in an effort to change the conversation about mental health.
My brother served in the Marines. I had uncles in the Army and cousins in the Navy.
For Ivan Castro, the military was a family business.
We're truly a family of service.
As for Carl Hinnett, he too was inspired by a family member, his grandmother.
But she used to tell me stories of friendship, travel, challenge, and that's what really drew me to it.
Being drawn to service brings with it unavoidable risks, like a night patrol along the banks of the Euphrates just south of Baghdad, Iraq.
One mortar round came in. It was an 82 millimeter round that landed on the side of the building. And immediately I looked over my left shoulder to tell my guys to jump off because we still had a couple of guys on the rooftop. And just as I went to yell to my guys to jump off, the next round landed 5 feet to my left.
Carl was a 19-year-old turret gunner on a 26-ton Warrior fighting vehicle. While supporting British Special Service in an attempt to free 2 soldiers, his vehicle was surrounded by a mob and pelted with petrol bombs.
That crowd was getting more confident, more violent, more aggressive, and unfortunately it did lead to them scoring a direct hit with a petrol bomb, which happened to go down the turret and completely engulf me in flames.
Ivan woke up in a hospital bed in Bethesda, Maryland. Carl in Birmingham, England, miles apart, but both changed forever.
Days later, I was rolled into surgery to try to salvage my left eye. I had a fragment that landed in the eye, and when the doctors removed the fragment, it just heavily scarred my retina and severed my optic nerve. Shortly after, I was given the news that I was going to be blind for the rest of my life.
I knew what had happened. I knew how bad my injuries were, and I knew it was very likely that my service was at an end. And mentally, that's where the recovery was almost as big of a battle as the actual physical recovery.
For me, I treat my my stress, my depression in a different way than most people. I take out that with exercise.
I need to start by putting one foot in front of the other again. And a very, very simple sort of method of recovery, but I thought in my own mind, if I'm moving forward, literally, step by step, then I'm moving forward physically and mentally.
And what a journey it's been. One day, while Ivan was putting one ski in front of the other as part of a fundraising trek to the South Pole, he slid into Prince Harry. A friendship was immediately born.
I not only call him my friend, but I call him my brother. You know, I really care about him. He's got a great heart.
A great supporter of wounded vets, Harry challenged Ivan and Carl to create awareness for the invisible wounds of war by running a couple of marathons together on behalf of the Royal Foundation for their Heads Together campaign. The goal? To change the conversation about mental health and end the shame and stigma which surrounds it. Harry explained it all on the Jumbotron in a video message at Fenway Park.
Hello Fenway. I'm delighted to introduce the guys who are throwing the first pitch today, Ivan Castro and Carl Hinnett. Tomorrow they will run the Boston Marathon for Heads Together, the campaign that Catherine, William and I are leading to change the conversation on mental health. They are raising funds in the US for Homebase, a Red Sox Foundation and Massachusetts General Hospital program that provides care and support to veterans and their families. They are taking on this incredible challenge for one reason: to help us end the fear that stops people talking about mental health.
For the campaign, you know, for Heads Together and that whole spreading the message of, you know, it is okay to put your hand up and say, I need help, you know, to help tackle those invisible wounds. The message that we wanted to get across was that if those days, you know, happened, you know, if they weren't just every now and again, if those off days seemed to be every day, or they just kept piling up, you know, that's when it's time to, you know, step forward and, you know, get some help.
One more thing we should mention about Prince Harry's conversation. He suggested the guys run the Boston and London marathons, a mere 6 days apart. On the morning of Patriots Day 2017, Team Heads Together put one foot ahead of the other and left Hopkinton bound for Boston. A little over 5 hours later, Boston was over. All that was left to do, fly to London and run another 26 miles.
Ivan Castro representing the American Green Beret and Carl Hinnett from the British Army goes from Boston to London to do 26.2 times 2.
Ask anyone who's done it. Running just one marathon is a journey. Imagine 2 in 6 days. But the road to recovery for those with PTSD and TBI can take a lifetime. That's why programs like Homebase have been created, so those suffering may one day move forward every day.
So it's great to see Homebase is out there, you know, doing this work, providing care for the service members and their families.
It does have a ripple effect, so that's why it is so important to get help, because not only would you be helping yourself, you'd be helping your loved ones.
You can join in and help change the conversation about mental health care for our veterans, and you don't have to run a marathon. Simply pick up the phone and donate now. Funds raised benefit Home Base, a Red Sox Foundation and Massachusetts General Hospital program that provides world-class clinical care to our veterans and their families. Call 866-615-8387. Also scrolling on your screen is the number to text to give. Text veterans to 91999, upper lowercase, it doesn't matter, or make your donation online through homebase.org/give. Veterans who are transitioning out of the military and back into civilian life can face challenges, regardless of their time in service. It's something Red Sox legend Tim Wakefield can relate to. He experienced similar feelings once he retired from baseball. And for those who do feel isolated, out of shape, and miss that camaraderie, Home Base, with the input from Wakefield, started Warrior Health and Fitness. Wake recently stopped by the wellness program to meet some of the vets.
Straight out, lock it out. Get back squat right back down into it. There you go.
Warrior Health and Fitness is a free program run by veterans for veterans, designed to improve their overall health. It combines supervised exercise, education about healthy eating, living, sleeping, and coaching to help participants make healthy lifestyle changes. The program is one of Home Base's lighter touch offerings, treating warriors in a holistic way. The thinking is, if their health is in check, they're better equipped to deal with other issues that those enrolled may have to face.
We went to go visit the White House in 2005 after we won the World Series in 2004, and we went to the Walter Reed Hospital, and it was born there, basically, through Mr. Henry, Mr. Werner, and Mr. Lucchino. They were going to start a program called Home Base, and it was going to deal with traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder. And talking with the guys at Walter Reed, it seemed like it was a need that needed to be addressed at that time. And so I felt the need to kind of use my platform to serve the one that served us.
Former Red Sox pitcher Tim Wakefield was part of the discussion to broaden Home Base's offerings to include fitness, uniquely understanding what it might be like to leave the military and adjust to civilian life.
It took me a while to adjust to life outside of baseball because I spent more time with the guys, my teammates, the guys in uniform here, than I did with my own family and friends at home.
He also understands the benefit of working out and talked about it recently when he stopped by a workout session for Warrior Health and Fitness.
These guys, when they get done, I mean, they're used to running at a volume of 10 all the time. And when they get home, the volume's turned down and they don't know how to cope with life outside of what they're used to. What a great way to bring them back together and get them working out and getting their adrenaline flowing again and realize that, hey, there's other guys that are in the same position that I'm in.
Warriors have been trained in some ways as athletes, and they're used to being fit. There's a camaraderie effect to that. There's a general health and wellness for one's behavioral mental health and one's general physical health from being fit, from exercising. We know that aerobic exercises promotes brain plasticity and enhances elements of learning and connectivity. That's another element of long-term wellness that we want to promote.
It's great because it brings you back to how it felt to be in the military and be challenged, and to look at the guy next to you and he's struggling, so you're gonna try and help him by pushing more, one more push-up out.
Inhale down, exhale out. It's nice to have people there you can talk to. I'll say things to fellow veterans who I've known for a short time that I wouldn't say to, my brother, because he just wouldn't get it, wouldn't understand where I'm coming from.
Breathe, good.
So you instantly get that relationship built with that common ground.
It's very important to know that you're supported. We support you at Home Base, and we give you an outlet to come and really get back into your groove, or whatever it might have been at the time. Get you back working out, get you the help that you need. It's important, and I hope this grows. I know we have the Home Base program here in Boston as well as Southwest Florida, but I want this to go nationwide because all our veterans who have served deserve the right to have this program.
Thank you to AT&T for donating to the Warrior Health and Fitness Program to help ensure this wellness program is available to our veterans free of charge. Home Base is a partnership of the Red Sox Foundation and Massachusetts General Hospital, focused on healing the invisible wounds of war for veterans, service members, and their families. Invisible wounds include post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, anxiety, depression, co-occurring substance use disorder, military sexual trauma, and other issues associated with service. Navy SEAL training is some of the toughest in the world. SEALs deploy multiple times and face unique challenges when they come home. Coming up, hear what the Home Base program is doing in conjunction with the Navy SEAL Legacy Foundation to ensure no one is left behind. Then, what police from around the area are doing to stand up for veterans returning from combat. But first, a raw account from someone who was almost a statistic, someone who almost became one of the 20 veterans who die by suicide every day. Some of this may be hard to hear, but Tim Cross wants to share his story in hopes of encouraging other veterans to reach out for help.
Maybe you think it looks out of place to see a man riding a farm tractor on city streets. Tim Cross of Green City Growers would understand that. You see, knowing he'd be out of place in college led him to make a decision some 7 years ago that would put him on a road with some very difficult twists and turns.
I was driving trucks, I was working in a warehouse, and I knew I wasn't responsible enough for college, so I chose a path that would give me a sense of purpose. So I saw the Army, I picked something that interested me, and I said, well, this is what I'm going to learn, this is what I'm going to do. So I joined right after 9/11.
And in that call to serve, Tim found a calling.
I loved working on the aircraft, I loved taking something that was broke and nobody knew what was wrong with it, figuring it out and fixing it. When I got into something, I wanted to know everything about it. I wanted to tinker, I wanted to pull it apart, and I wanted to see what was wrong.
Tim's skills as a helicopter mechanic were invaluable during his first 2 deployments, both in Iraq. But returning home proved troublesome at times. No wrench could fix the feelings.
It became increasingly more a place I didn't really understand. And things that you normally had and grew up with and thought you knew had all changed, or rather, you changed. And yeah, so it's something hard to put into words.
He deployed again in 2011, this time to Afghanistan. Different place, same sense of responsibility to the pilots with whom he served.
The best analogy I can think of is almost a mother hen. When they're in that aircraft and they're out, then you want to know that you did your job correctly to make sure that they are taken care of and that what they need to keep themselves safe functions properly. My supervisor comes by and asked if I had heard what happened, and I said no. I was like, no. And he told me that one of our aircraft went down, 024. Before I could even ask, he told me that nobody made it, and I had literally just worked on that aircraft days prior. They do investigations whenever anything goes down, and told me a couple of times that there was nothing that you did, even though. But the mind believes what the mind believes, and you can't ever get things like that out of your head.
It cuts through you and it cuts deep. Now, as he builds structures that help things grow, Tim looks back to the night it truly fell apart.
I wasn't really happy at all. I was stressed about a lot of things, arguing with my spouse, and the New Year's Eve of 2015 going to 2016, I upended a bottle of pills and immediately knew I was a friggin' moron.
Tim Cross is a veteran who came to home base a couple of years ago for help. He was in that much distress that he contemplated taking his own life. Commonly, we think of PTSD resulting in the military from some kind of direct combat action, but in fact, a lot of PTSD can result from other kinds of traumas and can be equally as debilitating.
Tim began treatment with Dr. Tim Peterson, and together they dove deep using a therapy called prolonged exposure.
Prolonged exposure asks patients to systematically revisit the trauma in question. It's a very difficult treatment to participate in because we're asking patients to actually confront memories that they've usually gone out of their way to avoid.
These days, life after deployment makes a lot more sense to Tim, and home base is still there to help.
I don't like to dump my trash on other people, but being able to have a place where, you know, Doc Peterson doesn't mind if I come in there and I dump all over his office. He's perfectly okay with it. I've been learning a lot recently that being myself and doing for myself and advocating for myself is very therapeutic. And that's definitely something I've got from home base.
Healing and growth, that's a good road to be on.
Coming to work and seeing things grow and seeing this place, start off brown at the beginning of the spring and then be green and then going back. And I've never had a day where I didn't want to come to work.
Staffers are standing by right now at the phone bank, ready to take your call. No donation is too small. Your support enables home base to provide the evidence-based clinical care you just heard about. I urge you to pick up the phone now and donate. You can also text your gift by texting Veterans with an S to 91999. And you can contribute online by visiting homebase.org/give. In the story you just saw, Tim's treatment took place weekly at Home Base's Boston Clinic through traditional outpatient appointments. But what about those who are too far away to come to Boston each week? Home Base provides options. They offer an intensive clinical program called the ICP. It provides close to a year's worth of therapy in 2 weeks' time, with the lodging and the meals and the transportation included. Since piloting ICP in late 2015, Home Base has now treated more than 400 veterans and military family members. It is a revolutionary treatment protocol, and it works. So much so that Home Base has expanded it to include family members who have lost a loved one to suicide. This new program is a collaboration between Home Base and TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. These patients are struggling with severe symptoms of trauma as well as significant symptoms of grief. The hope is to set these family members on a path to healing and to further change the landscape of care for those across the nation who are suffering after losing a family member to suicide. Also new this year, the SEAL Legacy Foundation announced a partnership with Home Base to address the mental health needs of the SEAL community. SEAL stands for the Navy's Sea, Air, and Land Forces. SEALs are expertly trained to deliver highly specialized, intensely challenging warfare capabilities. They deploy multiple times and have specific needs when they come home. As such, Home Base is partnering with the SEAL Legacy Foundation to address these needs and to offer an ICP for the SEAL community.
What's interesting is about 43% of the Navy SEAL population comes from New England. We've seen a lot of it in the movies, but that pales in comparison to what happens in real life. Our hope is to really build this pipeline of care. So this is really a great partnership, and we're looking forward to it.
The Run to Home Base is Home Base's biggest fundraiser. In 2017, it was especially poignant. At the run, Home Base announced that they would extend their care of veterans who are suffering to those who fought in Vietnam. It was an incredibly moving day at the park.
This event, year after year, is one of my favorite events to come to because of what Home Base represents, the impacts it has on veterans and the impacts it has on families.
We are here to raise money for Home Base, a Red Sox Foundation and Massachusetts General Hospital program that helps heal the invisible wounds of war for post 9/11 veterans, service members, and their families.
I volunteered and served at Desert Storm in the 1st Cav.
Then 9/11 happened, and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq started, and my heart got pulled back to the military. I was injured and suffered both a moral and physical injury. In war, you see things and you do things that leave a lasting imprint on your soul. I reached out for help, but no one seemed to understand. By the spring of 2016, I just wanted out. I wanted to die. I couldn't take the pain anymore. And I found out about home base. And I talked about those things in that box that I'd stuffed so deep down that were torturing me. Home base is my second family. Because they took a broken man who didn't want to live and treated not only my PTSD, but my entire body. Today we run to raise awareness about the help that is out there for our veterans. Today we run for the soldiers deployed in harm's way. Today we run for the Gold Star families of our fallen comrades. And today we run for the staff of home base because they save lives, saved my life.
This is an effort to try to convert those two words, thank you, to a commitment more enduring, to attempt to recognize what you have all done for the rest of us.
Today, I believe we reaffirm one of the most fundamental duties as citizens of the United States of America, to show all who have served in our armed forces of our nation the gratitude of a grateful nation and the respect and dignity they have earned, and to honor their service and sacrifice for us all. There's an implied trust that we will be there for them when their duties and mission are complete. That trust was fractured during the Vietnam War. We can never forget that fractured trust or make up for those times, but we can now resolve never to let that happen again, and we can reach out to each other to honor your service and show our gratitude for that service and sacrifice for us all. This is the first public ceremony in 50 years I've ever been privileged to be part of with my fellow Vietnam veterans. And I'm privileged and proud to call myself one of you.
Starting this year, the Home Base program will begin to treat some of society's most overlooked veterans, those who returned with invisible wounds from the war in Vietnam. Won't you please now welcome a host of patriots who never received their ticker tape parade, who never received the hero's welcome, yet who now, 5 decades later, are so deserving of our thanks for their sacrifice. Won't you please rise as we give a most belated welcome home to more than 800 veterans and 500 family members who served the United States of America in the war in Vietnam.
Last year, we honored Vietnam veterans, and in 2018, we'll honor Gold Star families. And hot off the presses, the 2018 Run to Home Base presented by New Balance will take place Saturday, July 28th. To learn more and register, visit runtohomebase.org. You're watching Home Base's Veterans Day special. This program is filled with veterans sharing their story, men and women who bravely fought for our country. When they come home and challenges arise, Home Base is there to help. This nonprofit is in the business of providing hope, shining a light on the darkest of days. Our next story belongs to Joe Young, who served more than 40 years for his country.
Combat is hell. It weighs on you horrendously, especially over there, because you don't know if today's the day. I stayed in the Mass National Guard for 42 and a half years. I think what made me serve was, as I was a youngster growing up, my parents, especially my dad, brought me up to realize what America's all about. Patriotism, you stand for the national anthem, stand for the flag when it goes by you in a parade. My dad was as patriotic as they come, and I kind of like to think I've followed along with him.
The day that I married him, I also married the military. It was a normal life. He had his weekend drills, he had his summer camps, he had his job. It was normal, everyday life.
And it would be a normal life until one fateful day when Joe was 50 years old.
So in February of 2003, I went on to active duty and reported to the unit. And in May of 2003, I found myself in the middle of Iraq. I came home in 2004, and I reported down to my old unit in Quincy. I just wanted to say hi to everybody. And the battalion commander at the time, he says, "You know where we're going?" And I said, "Yes, I know." He says, "Would you consider going back?"
I knew that if he didn't go the second time with his unit, he could not live with himself. I knew I couldn't live with myself. After all, they were his boys that were going. And his boys couldn't go without him.
And there was 27 of us, and 5 of the team was down at Camp Bucca, which was a prison down south on the Kuwait-Iraqi border, and the rest of us were at Abu Ghraib prison. And on April 2nd, 2005, we were involved in an attack. They wanted to get inside the prison and free the detainees. And when the attack started, we were basically quiet time. I was in my bunk, sitting in my PT clothes, my laptop on, reading the newspaper. The attack started, and then information come down that weapons were breaking down on the wall, and we needed to get replacement weapons. While we were under fire, we moving vehicles around, getting weapons into the back of vehicles. The Marines and everybody on the wall were running low on ammunition. And they looked at me and they asked me if I had the keys to the ammunition point, and I said, "Yes, I do." And another one of the master sergeants stood up and he says, "I need a volunteer to go with Joe Young." And then when you look around and you see the faces of the 22, 23, 24-year-old kids, and you just see all this fear standing right in front of you. So we went out and stepped right into pure hell. Everything was just going off, going around us, explosions. I looked over to the left, you could see something that got blown up and just fire just rolling and boiling up into the sky. And we made it down to the ammo point, and we picked up ammunition, and we just started going around the wall of the prison on the inside and just resupplying the troops with ammunition. This went on for probably 4 to 5 hours. But in the morning, the best part about it was we were there to see the sunrise.
Joe will tell you he was just doing his job. The truth is, his heroic actions that night saved countless lives and earned Joe the Bronze Star with Valor, an honor he shares with his father, who is also a Bronze Star recipient. But the horrors Joe saw have scarred him deeply.
When they had the bracelets, I asked if I could have one. The third one, Brian Romines, a good friend of mine, died right in front of me on a convoy in 2005.
I married the military. That goes along with the military. He went to war. What do you expect? He came back wounded. He didn't come back wounded physically. He came back wounded mentally. Joe was Antsy, very antsy, couldn't sit still. You couldn't have a conversation with him. Driving down the road, it was like, whoa, and he wasn't very cautious driving. It was almost like he was dodging that imaginary bullet.
And people was making remarks that you're not you, you're not being yourself. And I go, nah, you're crazy, you know. And then last Veterans Day, the home base program came on TV. And I sat there and said, that's me. So the following Monday, I made a phone call. I went to Boston maybe a week later on a Monday. And they notified me by the end of the week that, yeah, you're in the program.
He's a lot calmer. The first time we left home base together, we went down into Faneuil Marketplace. Went to Durgan Park for lunch, one of my favorite places. For the first time in 12 years, he did not sit with his back to the wall.
You got to get past the image that I'm a rough, tough guy, I'm a badass, I'm in the military. We don't show weakness. We're not wimps. Because it took me a while to figure this out too, that PTSD don't care who you are or what you were for a rank. It's just gonna come up and slap you right side the head. From being a private E2 to a 4-star general, everybody can be affected by PTSD. You know, and my hope is that if this encourages one veteran to make a phone call, another veteran sees that I'm sitting here doing this program with you, it's okay. It's okay to reach out for help.
Folks from Home Base are standing by. They're ready to answer your call at the phone bank. Home Base treats veterans, service members, and their families at no cost to them, like they can't do it alone. The nonprofit relies on donations from viewers like you, and there's no better way to say thank you for your service. Call the phone bank now, 866-615-8387. You can also text your donation in by texting veterans to 91999, or you can contribute online by visiting homebase.org/give. The mission of Home Base is to heal the invisible wounds of war through world-class clinical care, wellness, research, and education. On the education front, the organization has trained more than 55,000 clinicians, educators, and members of the community in how to recognize, assist, and heal those who are suffering. In 2015, the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office issued Home Base a grant to create free online classes through their Training Institute, classes specifically designed for first responders. The trainings help them understand suicide risk and understand how military culture impacts care. 20 veterans die by suicide every day, and with many first responders being veterans themselves, the issue hits close to home. As a way to give back, representatives from 21 area police departments participated in a No Shave November campaign to benefit Home Base. It was all started by a police officer who is also a former patient.
I think for me, when I think back on the number of veterans that have come through the program over the years, literally thousands, every one of those folks has been touched by the program in small and in very significant ways. And I've gotten to know a few of them. And when I think about some of the stories that have touched me personally, I think of folks like Kurt Power.
No Shave November is, we have police officers from all over the state. They're agreeing not to shave for the entire month of November. Each officer pays $100 to do so. All that money goes to the Home Base program. And it helps bring awareness to Home Base and the invisible wounds of war.
It's a way to get everybody involved through a little bit of fun, if you will. On our agency, we have a policy about facial hair. So this lets people grow as much hair as they can in that 30-day period.
We all knew that Kurt was very passionate about the veterans' causes. We knew of his service overseas,
and the sacrifice that he made, and really raised awareness in the department about what some of the challenges are returning to everyday civilian life.
Officer Kurt Power came and he explained what it was, and by the time he got 30 seconds into it, we were sold. This is something that will go on for however long we need to do it.
If it wasn't for Kurt, I truly believe we wouldn't be here today. His motivation, his energy, and his commitment to helping others is truly amazing. I don't think I've known someone so dedicated to reaching back and paying forward than Kurt Power.
I can say that legitimately home base changed my life after the war and the life of my family, and I can't be any more thankful. And I thank you guys so much for the support. We have a lot of police officers out here, want to do the right thing and believe in the greater good and want to help, and it's really an honor to be a part of this.
I can tell you firsthand, being a combat veteran and seeing the impact that we make on veterans and families is unbelievable. And I can't be more proud to be an employee of Home Base, and you all should be proud of what you did to support that mission.
The value that our veterans bring to our agency is immeasurable. And as leaders of organizations like that, it's incumbent upon us to be cognizant and aware that some of our veterans suffer from the so-called invisible wounds of war. It's at that point that where the real fight comes in, and without organizations such as Home Base, we literally would be lost. They are a lifesaver.
To see Kurt thrive after his care at Home Base, and to then be able to see him not only thrive in his work as a police officer, but then to go on and give back to his fellow veterans through the No Shave November activities and through being able to represent Home Base in the community and his fellow veterans and family members, that's the full circle right there. It's somebody who received help, and that help made an incredible difference in their life. And they moved on, and they moved on in ways that is absolutely beautiful and is giving back to the community.
This year, Officer Kurt Power hopes to grow the event and his beard even larger than before. On your screen now are the participating departments, and if your local department is interested, you can check out homebase.org/NoShaveNovember. Home Base collaborates with organizations all over New England to best serve our nation's veterans, and that includes King Pine Purity Springs Ski Resort in Madison, New Hampshire, where Home Base hosted a tubing adventure series last winter. The adventure series allows military families to come out and have a good time without a price tag, while learning about the other services Home Base provides.
It aligns very much with what King Pine Ski Area and Purity Spring Resort are all about, in terms of families really getting together and having that time outside of their normal environment.
These are fun, free family activities that foster connections before, during, and after deployment. As our next family describes, the Adventure Series is also a way to connect with clinical care.
Where in the world is he going?
He's been to a lot of countries. So we've had 14 houses. We've been to different countries in almost every state in the United States already. But moving frequently, it does limit the amount of friends, just from the constant movement.
The life of a military family isn't easy.
Dubai, Guam,
Iraq, Afghanistan.
But it's the only life Angel and Debbie Mora's 4 children know.
It's definitely difficult, I would say. Just being the service member alone, it's tough for me adjusting, so I could just imagine how tough it is for my kids.
The 23-year veteran of the Marine Corps and his family moved to Massachusetts when he was stationed at Fort Devens, beginning in 2015. Not long after, they attended their first Home Base Adventure Series. The Moras are now familiar faces at events like this one.
For us, we've always been a really close family, but doing this together, it just makes it that much more fun and makes more memories. And meeting other people along the way with similar experiences is kind of cool to, especially here, we didn't really have very many friends or people that we knew here.
I personally love talking to other veterans and other people, just to share, as we call it, war stories, see what they've been through, what I've been through.
Quick round of applause for Wachusett Mountain for hosting us.
The Adventure Series is about much more than just a day on the slopes. It's about strengthening family bonds, which are often affected during and after deployment.
My kids have seen it. My kids have seen him from the start. They were older when he came back from Afghanistan, so they knew he came back different.
Through the Adventure Series, Angel learned about many of the other services that home base can provide. He enrolled in the Intensive Clinical Program, or ICP, where over the course of 2 weeks, veterans receive nearly a year's worth of therapeutic services. ICP addresses issues like PTSD, depression, and anxiety.
I took advantage of the 2-week treatment for the PTSD. Going through this battle wound, as I call it, is tough. So any type of tools or anything that I learned or that I could learn, I learned them in this home base. I've been seeing treatment for a while, but here at the home base is a very concentrated, just a wealth of information that they provided me and my wife, and then we share them with my kids as well.
Bringing families together. Helping to heal the invisible wounds of war.
Change. It's a huge change. Home base has changed my husband.
This Veterans Day, we take you to a New Hampshire horse farm that's extending its horses for healing, and also designs for a state-of-the-art building on the coast of New England, a new National Center of Excellence to treat the invisible wounds of war. And the journey back into the light of hope. A Maine veteran describes what it was like surviving sexual assault in the military. Established in 2009, Home Base focuses on healing the invisible wounds of war through world-class clinical care, wellness programs, education, and research. They do it with science. Harvard-affiliated clinicians using evidence-based therapies. But they also incorporate complementary alternative medicine like yoga and Tai Chi. And as any animal lover knows, there's something therapeutic about being around our four-legged friends, which brings us to our next story at a horse farm in New Hampshire.
Touchstone Farm is a not-for-profit in Temple, New Hampshire. We provide transformative experiences that truly change lives. Throughout 46 years, we've just seen time after time after time the healing magic and power of the horse. Our newest program here at Touchstone is our partnership with Home Base to offer the healing power of this farm and the community of belonging to veterans that have served our great country.
Our goal at Touchstone Farm is to help people reconnect with themselves, with others, with animals, and really a place and sense of time. We are honored to serve those who have served, to give people a place where they can feel that they are welcome and appreciated, and a time where they can just enjoy the present. They don't have to think about the past or worry about the future.
It's amazing, it really is. You're interacting with horses and other animals, and believe it or not, it's very therapeutic. It was just a very relaxing weekend.
The nicest group of people that work there you'll ever meet. They use the animals to help kind of soften you and to get you over some of your fears. For me, it was very therapeutic because I like nature, I love animals.
It was good for Greg and I to be together without the stresses of our kids and home and bills, and it was fabulous.
I believe that horses have a special appeal to all people, but particularly people that are feeling out of control in their life. And I think to have the experience, whether you're riding or driving or vaulting or simply walking a horse, to just have that connection with the horse, I think is very empowering.
When you look at what we're doing on the weekends and taking folks up to New Hampshire, to Touchstone Farms and working with horses, these are the environments that these veterans and families, and frankly all of us, thrive in.
Veterans have said things like, Phew, I've never slept so well in 13 years. Or, I've never seen my husband smile so much since he came home. Those are the reasons that we feel so honored and truly privileged to do this work. They deserve to be genuinely thanked for their service.
Home Base treats veterans who are acutely suffering in what's known as the ICP. Close to a year's worth of therapy provided in 2 weeks, putting vets on a path of success when they return to their hometowns. Up next, the story of a married couple, both of whom came through Home Base's ICP.
I grew up with a stepfather who's a logger and a mom who worked full-time. Despite both of them having their responsibilities, they showered us kids with basically anything we wanted without us being spoiled, because we definitely worked for what we got. My stepfather raised us as equals, so if the boys had to go out and do firewood, Jen did firewood too. And the boys helped clean the house like Jen did. It was fair, and now that I look back on it, I really appreciate that and think that that's awesome that I got that opportunity. Jennifer, as a person before I enlisted, had come from a world of nothing but good. I was naive, I was happy, and I was hopeful about making real change in my lifetime. So that's what I went into the military with, was that kind of a mindset. Everyone has to go to a recruiter. Naively, I just trusted everybody. And this particular recruiter, who had a great reputation at the squadron for helping people who weren't ready, getting them ready to come in, he invited me to a new recruit party. I go to this quote-unquote new recruit party, and when I get there, the minute I walked in the door, I felt that something was wrong, but I didn't know what. I sat down and just kind of waited for the other new recruits to show up, of which they never did. While I was waiting for them to show up, because I was excited to talk about our, what we're gonna go through and to go through it together and all that kind of stuff, the recruiter was trying to push alcohol down my throat, like viciously, like drink, drink, drink. I eventually relented to at least 1 or 2 shots just to get him to calm down. And he must have slipped something in one of them, because when I got to stand up to leave, I noticed that I was dizzy and ended up going into his living room and passing out on his couch. And when I woke up, he was picking me up and carrying me into his room, and I couldn't move, and he raped me. It wasn't until the next morning at 4 a.m. that I was like, what just happened? Where am I? I have no clothes on. And I hurriedly put my stuff on, and like the typical